Good evening. I, Vaidehi Binzani, welcome you all to today's workshop on leadership and cross-cultural dimensions, organized by Amity University, Amity Business School, and Amity Skills Institute. Leadership is the art of motivating a group of people to act towards achieving a common goal. Before starting the workshop, I would like to introduce the resource persons for today. Professor Dr. Garima Prakash. Professor Dr. Garima Prakash has over 29 years of diversified experience in hotels, restaurant management, and operations ranging from concept, building, menu designing, menu engineering, and recipe development. She is an alumnus of Institute of Hotel Management and Catering Technology, Pusa, New Delhi. Dr. Garima has worked with known international hospitality organizations like Taj Group of Hotels, Coral Strand Hotel, Seychelles, etc. Dr. Tanushri Purohit. Tanushri Purohit has 21 years of rich experience in corporate sector and academics. She has training expertise includes training and coaching of senior managers, executives, and students. She has also trained rural artisans to uplift their marketing skills. Her current research area is how women are building and changing the society through the social entrepreneurship and transformative leadership in India and South Asian countries. I welcome you both, ma'am. I would like to invite Garima Prakash, ma'am, to start the workshop.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And good evening and a warm welcome to all. So, firstly, I'd like to thank Dr. Tanushri who has given me this opportunity to reflect little of my views on the topic leadership in international culture. I would just start with sharing my screen. Is it good, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. You can put it in slideshow. It is visible.
Yeah. Okay. So as Vaidehi had already said, what is leadership? So if it's basically the process of basically the process of influencing people to direct their efforts towards achievement of some particular goal or goals. How now next 40 minutes, what I want to say is how we're going to divide this next 40 minutes is that we're going to talk about a little bit of introduction about leadership. We'll just touch upon what is culture, and then we are going to talk about cross-culture leadership, what and why, and what are the major attributes that probably people who are into cross-culture leaders, who are cross-culture leaders, need to have. Some desirable attributes of these leaders, some non-desirable attributes of their leaders, so that people who are listening can take note of it and not go when they get these opportunities. We're also going to talk about different approaches which are followed in different countries by different leaders. We are going to talk about what is the life cycle of an expatriate, and last and but not the least, I had gathered some material, basically, how to conduct meetings when a leader has to conduct a meeting in cross-culture leadership. How does he go about that? So now, as we said, we've discussed what is leaders, and so philosophical background of leaders, which most of you would be aware. There are basically three types of managers or leaders, we call them. So we have theory X managers, theory Y managers, and theory Z managers. How they differ among themselves is theory X manager is basically a leader or a person who believes that everybody who's working are basically lazy, and that it's only the coercion and the threats of punishment often are necessary to get them to work. I would say this was something probably how in the initial days people used to manage or people used to lead, but it's no longer prevalent now. Neither the leaders are such, or neither the subordinates are such who would want that. Then there are theory Y managers. These are the people who believe that under the right conditions, people not only will work hard, but will also seek to increase responsibility and challenge. And that is to an extent true. And in today's generation, Theory X managers are the managers or the leaders that we find in all the organizations. All the leading organizations have such leaders. And these are the managers who believe, and rather it is true, that workers seek opportunities to participate in the management, and they are motivated by teamwork and responsibility sharing. So most of the cross-cultural leaders will come from Theory Z managers. So the Theory Z managers or the Theory Z leaderships are probably the people who actually follow in cross-cultural leadership. So leadership, behavior, and style, there are main three types: authoritarian types, paternalistic leadership, and participative leadership. So as the name suggests, authoritarian leadership is the use of work-centered behavior designed to ensure task accomplishment. Okay, this is what you have to do, and you should just focus on work. And there is an authority, and the leaders just dictate and have a kind of an autocratic rule to say that you have to complete this. And then you have this paternalistic leadership, in which, yes, the work is done, but the leader has an approach that, okay, no, I am also kind of your godfather or your father figure, and he has in mind protective employee-centered concern. And then obviously the participative leadership, which uses both work and task-centered and people-centered approaches to leading subordinates. Again, if we talk about leadership in cross-cultural, we will have Theory Z managers, and we will have a leadership style which is participative. The leaders who are following this are the leaders who will be in a position to take up cross-cultural leadership roles. So that is a little bit touching on the leadership. And now what culture is. So culture is a set of beliefs and values about what is desirable and undesirable in a community of people, and a set of formal or informal practices to support the values. Now, culture is very subtle, which exists, but it is very pervasive force. It is always there, and it's knowingly, unknowingly, consciously, unconsciously is one thing which affects all of us day in, day out, in our family lives, in our personal lives, in our professional lives. We can't get away with culture, because culture is something which is very, very strongly imbibed in all of us, and that reflects when we work. And that is where a challenge comes when we cross culture, when we basically interact in cross-cultural environments, or we move out a step out of our own culture, and either in a form of a subordinate or to lead teams. So culture is both subjective and objective. This is something to take note of. We have obviously the culture, the subjective element of a culture would be all the beliefs or the values and the cognitive frameworks which are imbibed in a community or imbibed in a human being. And objective is its observable pattern behavior. So basically, all the subjective points lead to the objective pattern of a culture. Also, culture is a very multi-level and it's dynamic. So it is obviously not that, okay, this is where it stands. It is at a micro level, which is at an individual level, and a macro level, which is in organizations and institutions. So all of us at any point of time, when we go for work or we work in any of the positions, what is there is that there will be a micro culture, which is imbibed into me because of the society where I have grown up, how I've been brought up, and what culture, religion, where I belong to, right? And then there is a macro culture in the organization that I'm working with, or the institutions where I have studied or worked. So basically, a human being is a subtotal of the culture imbibed to him at individual level and at organization level where he's presently working, and also at organizations where he has already worked, and also organizations or institutions wherever he has gathered his work experience from. So this is something which gets imbibed and ingrained in a leader or in a subordinate, right? And then the second is that culture is very dynamic. Dynamic means it is changing. It changes. It's not that, what has come to you in when you were 18 years, it will, it will stay when the way you are 32 years or 52 years. Because the society is changing, because the culture, there is an advancement, so the culture automatically also change. So the dynamic character of a culture is the product of ongoing social interactions. What is happening in the society on day-to-day basis, how the society is moving ahead, imparts or changes the culture of a human being. Builds in the society how the community is building. Like the way community was when I was growing up is definitely very different with the community which is built up right now, and it would be definitely different than after 10 years, And then the changes through daily decisions and behavior also impact the cultural aspect of a human being. So we understand that human being himself or herself being a very complex entity, and over and above we have culture, which is kind of leaving impressions on us, ensuring that our thinking changes and our behavior is directed by this. So now this probably will do. I don't know, we have enough. We can come back to this slide. What I would want is that, if any of the participants would want to, you recollect that, and would want to share a prejudice that you grew up with, and all of us had done that. And basically what others said about a certain group, and then you examine and see where it is coming from. All of us have a lot of prejudices we have seen when we were growing up. And we can kind of, compile a list of all these prejudices that are still prevalent. So we have seen some of us overcome it, but we are still, we have a lot of these prejudices which stay with us, and it definitely affects us in our decision making and day-to-day working when we work with the people. And reflect if you hold any of them or you have been able to overcome. So now so that was leadership, that was a little bit of culture. Now understanding what is cross-cultural leadership, getting both together. Understanding of how basically understanding cross-cultural relationships is understanding how individuals of different cultures interact with each other, which is very important. Nowadays, the world being so global, and it's really become small. So there are no boundaries left, there are no borders left. So it becomes that how individuals are going to, if we do not understand different cultures, we will not be able to behave or work into a culture where we have people with where we have in organizations, where we have people with different cultures. So not all individuals can adapt to the leadership style expected in a different culture, whether that culture is organizational or national. So, there are a lot of people who can be great in one kind of organization. So that's why when hiring happens, also, you might have done great in your interviews and all your technical rounds and everything had been great. And probably you find that, you have not been selected. And, and the main reason is that the people who are looking for, and most of the organization now try to understand and see if you are an organizational fit to their culture. And that is a major and a very important part, and which is being taken care by HR people in most of the organizations, right? Because what happens is if a person is hired who's not a culturally fit into the organization, he kind of fails in that organization, and that really has a great impact on his confidence. So there is neither the fault of the organization or the employee, but the cultural fit to an organization is very, very important. In a fast-paced business environment, developing a richer understanding and sensitivity to other culture is a skill, and that leaders must possess. Learn to be effective in a cross-cultural settings. Now, those days are gone. We have to be very, very open. We have to be very, very receptive, and we have to kind of, take in all kind of people, all types of cultures, all kind of thinking, and move ahead if we want to succeed in our careers. Just 1 minute. It's stuck. Yes. Okay. So now, what is cross-cultural relationship? Leadership. Sorry. So cross-cultural psychology attempts to understand how individuals of different cultures interact with each other. Cross-cultural leadership is the way to understand leaders who work in the newly globalized market. And cross-cultural leadership involves the ability to influence and motivate people's attitudes and behaviors in the global community to reach a common organizational goal. So this is basically what cross-cultural leadership tries to achieve, right? It attempts to understand the individuals of different culture. It is basically to understand leaders who work in the newly globalized market, and it also involves in the ability to influence and motivate people's attitudes and behavior so that no organization is harmed and the organizational goals are successfully achieved along with individual goals of all the employees and the leaders. So why do we need cultural leadership? We said, okay, we were good with leadership, that was enough of a concept of leadership. And now we have this cross-cultural leadership. Why would we need it? There were 10 years or 20 years ago, everybody used to kind of join an organization, stay with the organization for 20, 30 years, or stay in one city. And, there was this concept of getting settled. Okay, you are going to be in one city, you're going to be in one organization. But this is no longer happening. This is the opportunities are so much that even if you would want to do, you do not do it. And that is where the need of a cross-cultural leadership arises. So as the workforce is becoming increasingly multicultural and business continues to expand overseas, the homogeneous workforce has become a thing of the past. In such a global economy, cross-cultural leadership skills are critically important. If you look at our simple, even if we look at just Amity, we will have Amity in India and we will have Amity in Mauritius and we have an Amity in US. So, everywhere, if any of the professors or any of the leaders are going and moving or getting transferred, they need to have the skill that, because the economy has become very global, that these cross-cultural leadership skills are the ones which are going to be helping him to operate at different locations. Global markets are increasingly taking advantage of the strength and economic advantages of diverse global workforce. So it's not only that the leaders have to move because there are options coming everywhere, but even the market, even in one place, the whole organization or all organizations are taking the advantage when they can get a diverse global workforce. If they have somebody coming and working from somewhere, why not? So they actually, and diversity is something which really leads to a very, very advanced organization. So most of the companies operate on international projects with multicultural teams located in multiple countries. Thus, the need of a cross-cultural leadership. It is also common to find such projects led by project managers who come from many different countries, add diversity to the teams and creates a need for a greater amount of collaboration and need for leadership at multiple levels. So, and also then today's international organization requires leaders who can adjust to different environments quickly and work with partners and employees of other cultures, So anybody who is well-traveled, who has worked in a lot of places is always a person who is going to always be successful in any interview compared to a person who has do not have exposure to different cultures or different organizations in different countries or cities. As firms move from regional to trans-global enterprise models, initially the firms used to be just kind of, they used to have one office that could be in Delhi, Gurgaon, and they would never think about moving even out of states, But then slowly, then the regional offices happened. People started moving out in different parts or different regions of India. And now everybody wants to have their global presence. This is a must. And that obviously when any organization is wanting to have a global presence, it would need leaders who can basically provide that bridge between cultural diversity and business goal achievement. Otherwise, it will not happen. So ability of a leader to motivate a diverse team to manage change effectively is a critical issue in the international environment. And it cannot be assumed that a manager who's successful in one country will be also successful in another country. So that is why we need the leadership. So we need people who are keen to imbibe the concept of cross-cultural leadership, and we need people who are successful in various locations. So when we manage across culture, it involves the ability to recognize and embrace similarities and differences among nations and cultures, and then approach to organizational and strategic issues with an open and curious mind. So there are few key words in this statement. What is right now on your screen is basically any leader who is managing across cultures have to have the ability to recognize and embrace similarities. He or she should also be able to identify and embrace the differences, and then only he can approach or he can basically approach to achieve organizational and strategic issues with an open and curious mind. So if you have an open and a curious mind, you will embrace the similarities, you will respect the differences, and which eventually would help you to achieve your organizational goals. So what are basically the core about cross-cultural leadership is understanding, appreciating, and using cultural factors that can affect the behavior. We have appreciating the influence of work-related values. We have understanding and motivating employees with different values and attitudes. We have basically any person who's managing cross culture should be able to communicate in the local language. He should be able to deal effectively with extreme conditions in foreign countries. He should be able to utilize a global mindset using a worldwide perspective to constantly assess threats or opportunities. So these are basically the major guru mantra for anybody who is stepping into the role of a cross-cultural leadership. So any manager should possess an adequate knowledge, attitude, and belief in relation to diverse culture groups. He should be careful with stereotypes. He should not hold any biases in his mind. He should have knowledge about impact of cultural group membership on clients and the associates or the stakeholders. And he should have appropriate intervention skills in the delivery of culturally sensitive services. This is again a matter of very, very important point that any person, he should be tuned and he should have this intervention or negotiation skills in the delivery of culturally sensitive services. Negotiation itself is very sensitive, and then if you have, which is basically which involves different cultures also, it becomes more sensitive. So it's not a game that can be played by anybody and everybody. You need a person or you need a leader who is very calm and who has been trained in these skills. So an effective cross-cultural leader must have a well-rounded skill set. So the skill set which is required for you to become a cross-cultural leader is general intelligence. Obviously, it goes without saying. He should have business knowledge. Interpersonal skills is a great and a very important factor, not only for a cross-cultural leader, but also for any kind of a leader. Commitment, because it's not an easy way. He should have commitment. He should have courage, because as you said, it is very easy to perform in your own land. It is very easy to perform with your kind of people because you understand what they think. So I'll share a very beautiful instance probably later. Just remind me. So ease in dealing with cross-cultural issues, open personality, he should be flexible, he should have a drive. Language skills is very, very important because people want to, the local business happens in local language. That is, it could be you go to Chennai, you go to Mumbai, you go to Germany, you go to France. Local business, local language. Multicultural perspective taking, knowledge and cognition, cultural awareness, very important. You should know where it will hurt, what is right, what is not right. Cross-cultural understanding and cognitive complexity. These are basically the few skill set that you need to cultivate in you, or you need to prepare, or you need to have, or you need to achieve before you move into your senior positions of cross-cultural leadership. Then the positive leader attributes for a cross-cultural leader are that he should be trustworthy, he should have foresight, he should be positive, he should be a confidence builder, intelligent, plans ahead, just, excellence-oriented, administrative skills, win-win problem solver. He should be dynamic, motivational, decisive, communicative, coordinator, effective bargainer, dependable, motive arouser, encouraging, honest, informed, and a team builder. It looks like a lot of them, but trust me, all of the leaders have these. And then there are little negative attributes, which probably we need to ensure and check ourselves all the time when we are into these key positions. We should not be a loner. Networking is the key to business and life. You should not be irritable, however irritable it should not be reflect. You should not be ruthless. Gone are the days we said autocratic leadership or autocracy is not working, authoritarian leadership is not working, it is participative. The moment you have participated leadership style, you cannot be ruthless. You should not be asocial. This one really comes very difficult. Most of the people, when you work hard and, you don't want to kind of, indulge into sweet talks or go out for organizational dinners or talk to people and other things. But I think so that is not a problem with Generation Z. But in case if you find yourself in that position, you have to consciously ensure that you are not asocial, you're not non-explicitive, you're not dictatorial, you're not non-cooperative, and you're not egocentric. So I think so positive attributes is something which we imbibe, but these are the negative leader attributes which should be consciously every day checked or a weekly basis that you're not moving onto these parameters. So there are 5 competencies for leaders, which has been taken out by Adler and Bartholomew in 1992 in their research. First is you understand business, political and cultural environments worldwide. As most of you know that it is not only the cultural environment, but also the political environment. The combination of the business environment, political environment, and the cultural environment is going to have a strong impact on your business. So this is something which you need to understand, not only in your region or the nation, but the world, because now every business is affected by what is happening worldwide. If we talk about the war, everybody is getting affected. The war might be in a different region, but this is, and the business will be affected everywhere. So that is what happens. Learn the perspectives, taste, trends, and technologies of many cultures. It will help you a long way. Be able to work simultaneously with people from many cultures. Don't pick out people from your team. You should be able to embrace people. They should be, employees and subordinates. They should not be kind of, because he belongs to this thing, he's going to be my favorite. It doesn't work like that. Be able to adapt to living and communicating in other cultures. Again, this becomes very difficult, and with Indians, it really becomes to a certain 10 or 15 years ago, and still today, a lot of Indians struggle when they have to go outside because, most of us are vegetarians, so they will not be able to eat. Most of the women in India do not smoke or have alcohol, and so we are not adaptable to living and communicating in other cultures. So, it really becomes difficult, but this is something which we need to cultivate for networking and for social aspects. Need to learn to relate, because a lot of businesses do not only happen in offices. Businesses happen over social networking, over dinners, over golf, over breakfast, and at these places. So you should be a part of this in case if you want to move into a very, very international zone of leadership. Need to learn to relate to people from other cultures from a position of equality rather than superiority. No culture or no human being, no culture is a superior culture to any other culture, So we need to accept and relate to people from other cultures, and that's it. And keeping in mind that every culture is equal and not that our culture is superior to some other culture. So these are the 5 competencies which have been very beautifully laid down, and this is something which if we imbibe, it's going to stand into good thing for us. Now, strategies for effective intercultural relationship will be, again, few points. Be aware of your own culture, beliefs, values, and behaviors. So before you start exploring and imploring other culture, firstly, you should be aware about your culture, beliefs, values, and behavior. Show curiosity towards other culture and expand your knowledge when interacting with local people by listening and observing. Just don't keep talking about yourself and talking about your culture. This happens with us. Local peoples are going to teach you a lot of things, and you listen and you observe them, and then you will understand what is any community made up of. Show respect for other cultures and customs by adopting appropriate behavior and language, verbal and both non-verbal. You should in any way you should show respect to other cultures, because a person is really ticked off if their cultures and is not respected, their customs are not respected. The same goes with us also. If somebody doesn't respect our culture, we will feel offended. Do not overreact when you feel uncomfortable or under attack. Ask first question for clarification. Don't assume things. Be patient. It will take you a long way. Learn quickly how to read people and assess situations. You don't have all the time in the world. Decisions are critical and that moment will be lost at that time. Be genuine, open, and inclusive. This really, really helps, Help other managers and employees by communicating clearly on roles, responsibilities, and expected initiatives and behaviors. Clarity is the key. The person who's working in your team should exactly know what is expected out of him. Learn how to give feedback in a culturally sensitive way. In a lot of cultures, there are different ways of giving feedbacks, so you have to learn that how this feedback is going to be taken constructively by one particular culture, and it will vary from each country, each culture. Leverage cultural differences for mutual gain. So when you communicate across culture, learn the language of the host country, very, very important. Learn to neutralize language accents, again, very important point. Be aware of the fact that cross-cultural barriers do exist. You cannot say that they do not. You have to be very consciously aware that these barriers are there, and you have to work on them and to ensure that they are kind of nullified to an extent. Use straightforward language and speak clearly. Be sensitive to non-verbal communication and develop cultural sensitivity. The moment you develop cultural sensitivity, everything will fall into place, And the moment you know their language, you speak in their language and you show respect to their culture, it becomes a cakewalk. Okay, then I think so. How much time do I have? Okay, so there has been various research and people and the researchers have basically researched about leadership in international context on 4 parameters. First is capacity for leadership and initiative, sharing information and objectives, participation, and internal control. These are the 4 main variables on which various research related to international leadership has happened. So the sum total of a lot of things which have come out of this research, I will go through with you. So European managers, the first is how does European managers, what is their take towards leadership practices? European managers tend to use a participative approach. Higher level managers tend to express more democratic values than lower level managers in some countries. In other countries, the opposite was found to be true. Younger managers were more likely to have democratic values when it came to capacity for leadership and initiative and sharing information and objectives. Company size tends to influence the degree of participated autocratic attitudes among the European leadership. So this is basically a sum total of the researches which has been done. And so in Japanese leadership approaches, Japan is well known for its paternalistic approach to leadership. Japanese culture promotes a high safety or security need, which is present among home country-based employees as well as MNC expatriates. In Japan, basically, you marry an organization, you join an organization and you retire from that organization. Japanese managers have much greater belief in the capacity of subordinates and for leadership and initiative than do managers in most other countries. Only managers in Anglo-American countries had stronger feeling in this area, but Japan took the lead. So then the new generation group scored significantly higher on individuals than did the current and older generation. They also scored significantly lower on collectivism and Confucianism. These values appear to reflect in the period of relative openness and freedom, often called social reform era, in which these new managers grew up. And they also had greater exposure to Western societal influences, which have resulted in leadership styles similar to those of Western managers. So this is what we were talking about is, we talked about how leadership works in China. Okay. So now the leadership in Middle East, there may have been much greater similarities between Middle Eastern leadership style and those of Western countries. And these similarities have basically come in because a lot of young managers from Middle East have studied in the Western university. And there is also a tendency towards participative leadership styles among young Arab managers, as well as among highly educated managers of all ages. So basically, Middle East has been majorly influenced by the education, Western education that the leaders have taken, and also their exposure into these Western countries. In developing countries, the research said that managerial attitudes in India are similar to Anglo-Americans towards a capacity for leadership and initiative, participation, and internal control, but different in sharing information and objectives. This is where India differed. Leadership style in Peru was much closer to United States, which was not previously assumed. And developing countries are basically moving towards a more participative leadership style. These are the basic outcome of those researches. Then this is a little snapshot of if you're doing business in China, which is again not an easy task. This is what you need to take care of. You have to be a good listener. You should be able to understand that the Chinese are less animated than Western people. Understand that Chinese place values and principles above money and expediency. Allow the Chinese host to signal the beginning of a meeting. Understand that the Chinese are slow to decide on a course of action, but stick to the decision they made. Understand that reciprocity is important in negotiations and not display emotions during negotiations. So if you're dealing with China or Chinese people, this is what you need to keep in mind. If you're doing business in Russia, you need to build personal relationships with partners. You need to use local consultants. You need to consider business ethics. You need to be patient. You basically don't need to stress a lot. Deal with just one firm at a time. It's very important. Keep financial information personal. Research about the company. Stress mutual gain. Clarify terminologies. Be careful about compromising or settling things quickly. I think so. We will give this a skip because now most of us know what are expatriates. So any cross-cultural leadership you would be working in as an expatriate. Expatriate is anyone who's living or working outside their home country. This is a cycle of an expatriate in the home country experiences. He gets select and he gets training just before going, which is and kind of, the organization has very unrealistic expectations from him before he goes, and he's trained, okay, you have to go and you have to do this and you have to accomplish this for the organization. Foreign country experience, he arrives and he tries to adjust into the cultural shock of that place. He's settling in and he's accumulating the information or the culture of that organization, and it's time for him to come. He returns home and he is again adjusting from recovery shock. So this is basically a life cycle of how the expatriates work. And so there's something called a cultural shock, and how do you avoid it? So all the anxiety and doubt that is caused by an overload of new expectations and social cues when you move to a new place, or this happens when you move to a new organization also. So moving to a new organization with moving to a new country or a new place, definitely you will be very anxious and you will have a lot of doubts. So this is what is referred to as a cultural shock, and it can be avoided by cross-cultural training. If this happens regularly, this will help support during foreign assignments from your parent company and avoiding re-entry shock. So these are basically 3 points where cultural shock can be avoided. Expatriate success factors lies in willingness and motivation to go abroad. You you should only send a person who's ready with that right framework of mind, that yes, he will be able to. The more the open the person is, the more the receptive the person is, he will be able to achieve more, or he's going to outshine in his cross-cultural leadership. He should have the technical ability. He should be very adaptable. He should have great interpersonal skills. He should have great communication ability, and he should have definitely a supportive family. So this is, ma'am, do we have time or should I stop?
You can maybe another 7 minutes.
This is just
5 minutes.
Yeah,
5 minutes you can wrap up, ma'am.
Yeah. So this is basically, you know, how you basically begin meetings in different countries. 1 minute. Has it come back on the screen? Is it on the screen?
Yes, ma'am, it's there.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, how do you begin meetings in different countries? In Germany, you have a formal intro. You sit down and you begin. That is simple, crisp, nice. In Finland, you have formal intro. You have a cup of coffee. You sit down and then begin. Okay. So the cup of coffee has come into Finland. US, you have a formal intro. You have cup of tea and biscuits. 10 minutes small talk. You talk about weather, sports, or comfort, and then you casually begin. In UK, meetings, formal intro, 15 minutes small talk, which could be politics, scandals, etc., and then you begin. Japan, you have a formal intro, you have a protocol sitting where you need to sit, very important in Japanese meetings. You are given green tea, 15-20 minutes small talk, which is about harmonious pleasantries. Not like UK, you cannot talk about scandals in Japanese meetings. Sudden signal from a senior Japanese to begin, and you begin the meeting. Spain or Italy, you have 20 to 30 minutes small talk. You talk about football, you talk about family matters while others arrive. So you sit and wait for others to arrive, and you begin when all are there. This is something probably a little bit how even Indians do, like we like to wait for people to come in, right? So this is how the meetings begin in few countries. And now there's a checklist for a successful meeting, which any cross-cultural leader needs to know or need to prepare. And this is not only for, this becomes very imperative in these cross-cultural meetings but this is what I believe is the protocol and should be taken care of in any of the meetings. So what is the intended purpose of the meeting? Preliminarily, fact-finding, actual negotiation, and social. Which is the best avenue? Who will attend, the level, numbers, and type of people? How long will it last? Are the physical arrangements suitable? What arrangements are appropriate? Whether you need to serve them meals, tea, or how many breaks? How much protocol does the other side expect? This is also important. This is in the nature that, you know, you might have in some cultures the other side will not expect a lot of protocol, but in some they would expect. So you need to find out how the others want you to conduct a meeting. So formality, any dress code or agendas. Who on their side is the decision maker? Very, very important to know. One person, several people, or on consensus, the decision will be taken in a meeting. So how much flexibility can be expected during negotiation? Give and take, moderation, fixed positions. How sensitive is the other side at national level or personal level? You need to understand that. How much posturing and body language can be expected? Facial expressions, impassivity, gestures, or harmony? What are the likely priorities of the other side? Logic, religion, political, and emotional? How wide is the cultural gap between the two sides? Again, related to logic, religion, political, emotional. How acceptable are their ethics to us? Will there be a language problem, common language, or do you need interpreters? What mechanism exists for breaking deadlocks or smoothing over difficulties? A meeting can go in any way. We are talking about high-level meetings, or negotiation meetings, or strategic meetings. So so how that deadlock could be broken, or how can things be smoothed out, and to what extent may such factors as humor, sarcasm, wisecracking, and impatience be allowed to spice the proceeding? So this is the massive, not very massive checklist, but this is what it is that you need to prepare for a meeting. So I think that is the end of my presentation. would anybody like to ask something, or would somebody like to discuss something?
I think Kaushal had a question, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Which are democratic values?
Democratic values are basically the values which a country would have according to I mean, how do I explain this? Is that values which are accepted by everybody in that culture.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody? You can raise a hand or type in the chat or the question answer.
Okay. Objection handling by a leader, how to do it. Now, this is what we said, objection handling by a leader, it again depends where that leader is situated. He needs to understand the culture of that place and then they take decisions accordingly. I think so that checklist, what we just did in the meeting. So objections have to be taken subtly by understanding with whom you're dealing with, what culture you're sitting in, and what position you're holding on to. Okay. Then. Anybody else? It's actually a very vast topic, and I think so we can go for days together debating and discussing this.
Yeah, and very pertinent actually in today's time, because there are a lot of issues which come up in the day-to-day activities within the organization. So there's one more question: when a leader need to be assertive during international meetings?
I think so. Any leader needs to be assertive with an agenda that he has, but how he wriggles his way through that meeting is something which a leader will do, because otherwise, I mean, every meeting or an international meeting is with an agenda. And but he has to just learn how to be politely assertive and to be diplomatically correct. Otherwise, there will be no point of that meeting. And I think so with experience, it comes when you deal with a culture and specific culture or an organization. But definitely any leader he needs to be assertive. But in what way he needs to be assertive is something which he has to probably learn according to the organization or the culture he's sitting in.
मोबिन जी आप हैं वहाँ?
यस मैम.
अच्छा, ये सबका नाम कौशल क्यों दिख रहा है मुझे?
I know.
मैम वो बिकॉज किसी एक ने रजिस्टर किया है, वो लिंक शेयर कर दिया सभी को, उसी लिंक से ये लोग ज्वाइन हो गए.
Okay.
Ma'am,
So Neha, I hope you got your answer.
So
maybe you have all
yeah, they're saying, ma'am, we've joined from Kaushal's link.
That's
Okay.
why.
Ma'am, what are the major tips for preparing before attending any negotiation? How a senior leader should behave? As I said, this checklist which I've shared is something which you need to prepare on that. So I think so that is maybe we can share the PPT, ma'am, later. So they are the major tips for preparing before attending any negotiation. The meeting that I said is the negotiation which a senior leader should keep in mind.
Okay. So I think, ma'am, we are running out of time. If you have any more question, please, you can send it to us. Okay. So that we can answer your question. And anyways, we are all connected. Anytime you have any doubt, you're going for a meeting and you want to consult, you are most welcome. That's for all of you. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am, for such an informative presentation.
Thank you.
I would now like to hand over the platform to Dr. Tanushree Purohit.
Yeah. So good evening. And so participants, as I told you, that we have gone through what is leadership and how we should, be in our best behaviors during our international interactions with expatriate and other team members. A very pertinent thing which is happening in today's, and you all must have had heard about it and maybe experiencing it through your life. So inclusiveness, the inclusivity factor. Just raise hands. Let me know how many of you have, heard about the term inclusivity. Can you just raise hands or chat, type in the chat or question answer, anything that have you? Or how many of you have gone through your, say, documents within your organizations which talks about inclusivity? Okay. Okay, whether he has heard. Okay, tell me, I'll put it the question in a different way. Tell me something, can you all write a word which, tells you what is your understanding of inclusiveness? Can all of you just jot down one word in the chat, which, which for you is inclusiveness? Quickly, quickly. Sarvesh, Ankur, Abhishek, Ria, Ujjwal, Kaushal, of course, and others who have joined as Kaushal. Okay, equality, equity, equal opportunity to everyone. Invite diverse perspective. That's wonderful. Diversity, wonderful. So how many I believe in your, how many of you have inclusive document or SOPs within the organization which is talking about inclusiveness? Yes, yeah, belongingness is very important, which talks about inclusiveness. Do you have, documents within the? Yes. Okay, good. Yes, code of conduct. Inclusion has been, there has been, if you look at, our talk about leadership, if you go back 10, 20 years back and say where leadership has been defined, and it has been very, very, I would say a male dominated and a certain class over there. So with the changing times, yes, diversity policy, multilingual operation manual of e-commerce item, wonderful. So you all are aware what is inclusion. That's absolutely wonderful to know. So it is, if we look at in today's scenario, that the environment is changing, people are moving, as Dr. Garima said, that the world has become a borderless village. You have organization somewhere, and you have operations somewhere, your manufacturing plant somewhere. So there has to be a movement, or when there is a movement of communication, there is a movement of resources, there is movement of people. In today's time, the organization are putting a lot of value to the people factor. So people is not only considered as a resource, it's not looked at a resource, it is an asset for an organization. Even when we did MBA, the marketing, the P's of marketing were product, price, place, and promotion. But the important P of people was also added in the say your marketing philosophy. So it is very important. Yes, Sarvesh, inclusion, employment, social, and of course leading to the prosperity. So when we talk of inclusion, it is including the diversity, that is you are able to enter the organization, you are able to have a way to the environment. Your inclusion would be your having a voice, that it's not only you are integrated within the organization, you have a voice, you have opinion, you have, you can
talk, you can tell, you can, give your, say, viewpoints or feedback maybe. And of course, there has to be a belongingness to be within the organization, that you have the right kind of team who hears your what you are saying and gives value to what are saying. So in today's dynamic environment, it is important that to have an inclusive environment, we have diversity, we have inclusion, and we have a belongingness for the organization. So if we look at why inclusion is important, inclusion is the culture in which mix of people can come together, work, work. Now, working is not important. Feel comfortable to work. Okay. If I, as a lady working in a team, and if it is late and if it's 12 o'clock at night, so there should be an environment wherein I'm comfortable to work with the team, and you feel safe to work, you feel confident to work there. And the way it is, and in a way you become confident in your arena, and you deliver business or service which is value to the organization. So inclusion is, you will ensure that everyone feels valued and important and adds value to the organization. So lot of leadership theories has been coming in today's scenario. We're talking of inclusion, where where every organization is having an SOP or a manual to to have to include different people from diverse backgrounds in the mainstream, whether it's a manufacturing company, whether it's a production company, or within a commercial company, or companies which are working even in the say a core sector of maybe construction also. They are also leading to having inclusivity within the organization, giving equal opportunities to all people. So when we talk of inclusive leadership, now comes the most important. Aap include to ho gaye, but are you getting that kind of value from the leader? Is your leader, or if you are dealing with a team, are you giving that comfort level to your team so that they feel valued to work? Okay. So now a inclusive leader does not only lead self, that he or she leads relationships, he or she leads the culture within the organization. So inclusive leader has a more holistic role to play than a normal reader. So you must be hearing in today's, you must be reading in a lot of websites and manuals or magazines that women, it is said that women are more inclusive leaders. It's not they are breaking the glass ceiling. It is said that more women should be given a more say strategic roles within the organization, and because they are more inclusive. It's not that a woman can be a more inclusive leader, a man can be an equally inclusive leader. So that is a myth. A woman can be, I feel that is a myth, that a woman can be an inclusive leader, and and a man cannot be an inclusive leader. So what makes an inclusive leader? Acha, how many of you yourself are leading teams? How many of you yourself are leading teams within your organization? I'm sure most of you are leading teams. When I'm in the class with you, what I've heard your experiences. So when we talk of inclusive leadership, it needs a lot of courage and commitment. It is and change, which is great, Neha, great. So it is a change which is coming across organization, wherein you are bringing inclusivity, where you are bringing diversity. So when we talk of inclusive leader has to be a lot of courage and brave to bring that kind of change.
An inclusive leader is aware of the biases that exist, and he or she has to put aside all the biases. We all have biases and stereotypes. Our mind, if we look at a human psychology part, our mind is full of biases. Our mind is full of, say, stereotypes that we believe ki, acha, he's from that country, she's from that country. I'm sure they'll have that typical kind of a behavior. Even within India, we have got so much of diversity. So there is so much of diversity, and we might feel that, okay, that person belongs to that part of the country. So the behavior would be like that. So we have those stereotypes embedded in our mind. So we have to break free all those kind of stereotypes, and we need to, some kind of bring in a new thought process which is more curious, which is more culturally competent, and of course collaborative. Can anybody share that, have you faced any kind of biases within your organization anytime? Anytime you have faced something, wherein you feel that, no, this should not have happened. This is not right. This should have happened in I'm sure most of you have faced. I have at least faced many times. But things are changing. Anybody wants to share any just a small experience? Can type in 1 or 2 lines in question, answer, or chat. Okay. So what is emotional intelligence according to you? EQ. A lot has been discussed in today's time on EQ. Anybody? Does anybody know what is EQ or emotional intelligence? Anybody? Okay. Empathy for other team members, valuing human. Okay, empathy. So yes, why do you feel that inclusive leaders should have a high EQ, emotional intelligence, ability to understand others? Okay. Why do you feel inclusive leaders should have a high EQ or emotional intelligence? Both are same interrelated terms. Okay, to make them feel, make your team valued, overcome challenges, diffuse conflict, okay, for a faster and better progress, communicate effectively, empathize with others. Oh, that's wonderful. I have a great team today for the workshop. Dr. Garima, this is a great team for the workshop. All are very progressive and
Yes.
to neutralize stress, okay, great. Okay. So emotional intelligence is a necessary key ingredient to effectively lead people who can manage processes. So it is the level of ability to understand yourself and others, and how you use your emotions, how you control your emotions, how you use your emotions in a, yes, good. This is very important, provide comfort to team. So it is understanding yourself and others and using your emotions in a positive way, which leads to a motivating environment and collaborative environment, so that outputs are, to the maximum, so that you can achieve, your team can really achieve, results. How you can align your organization's mission vision with the personal mission vision of your team, and use your EQ or emotional intelligence in such a way so that the output is maximum, the alignment is maximum. So that makes, it's a practice actually. If you look at, how you can link sorry, in emotional intelligence and inclusive leadership, it is a practice. It does not happen overnight, or maybe in one workshop, or maybe reading about it. It is how you practice with your team, how you consciously do it, how you know do it and see and visualize the positive results it would create in the future. Okay, so it is the more you do it, the more your leadership would be prominent, the more your leadership will be positive, more collaborative, and more inclusive. So some of the imperative skills about about an inclusive leader is awareness. First, we need to understand ourselves, ourselves, our emotions, our capabilities, our strengths, and our weaknesses. Don't focus on weakness. The more you focus on your weaknesses, the more you get into that vicious cycle. Just keep them aside. Think how you can strengthen your strengths, how you can strengthen your strengths to overcome the weakness you are having. So we all have weaknesses. How can we put them aside, and we can you know inculcate our positive emotions, inculcate our positive behavior more stronger, so that we are aware about our decisions, we are aware about our emotions, actions, and how through that we can improve our self control, how we can improve our consciousness, adaptability. We cannot let emotions rule our mind, and we not able to say a situation ko haath se chhodte. We need to, every situation we need to drive with optimism. We have to be in control. When we ourselves are in control, then only we are able to give say control. We can control the teams also. I'll take this question, Neha. So, does realizing our weakness helps in work on them in a better way and improve as a result? Yes, you have to realize your weakness, but you need to focus on your strength. So, there are two things you need to strike a balance upon. You realize your weakness, but not let weakness hover on your mind. You need to strengthen अपनी strengths को हम कैसे strong करें, because if we keep focusing on our weaknesses, those weaknesses start getting stronger. Believe me, they do get stronger if we too much focus on our weaknesses. So realize your weakness, that is very important, but how? Through your strength, how? To your practice, how? Through your consciousness, you have to overcome those weaknesses. Okay, and when you are in control of your emotions, when you are strong enough, you can you can motivate others, you can determine commitment, you can give commitment, and you have optimism. You drive your team to that commitment, you drive your team to get more and more positive results. So empathy, we already know that recognize how others feel, anticipate the needs. If somebody has joined an organization, every person has some kind of aspirations. How you can mold those aspirations, and how you can mold those aspirations so that they are aligned to your organizational goals, to your team goals, so that there is a cohesiveness, there is an alignment, and the result is maximum. Of course, soft skills are important, that I'm sure you all are expert in negotiating, influencing, collaboration, networking. Okay. So inclusive leaders have deep sense of fairness. If you look at the commitment part, they are very fair. They won't be biased, they won't be judgmental, they won't be maybe focusing on few members of the team, or somebody who is my relative, or somebody who belongs to my state, maybe somebody who has has been my batchmate, or we can consider our batchmates as competitors also, maybe. But there has to be a fairness. When you are inclusive leader, There has to be a fairness in your actions, in your communications, in your, the values you are following, the protocols you are doing, the communication, and whatever actions you are doing, it will be reflected in those actions. Your behavior, your practices are reflected in your actions in a very, very strong way. Even a one liner email tells a lot about the person who has sent the email. Do you agree with me or not? Team, do you agree with me or not? That a liner email tells a lot about a person, the kind of mood that person has written that, or the kind of communication. Sometimes you see a lot of aggression in mails. There is no subtleness. There is a lot of aggression and a lot of authority in that mail, just because it is coming from your say maybe your boss or somebody. There is aggression in that mail, so that has to be controlled. An inclusive leader never leave their composure, their coolness, the way they react. So that is very important. You have to combine the intellect with emotion and view people as assets for your organization, not as only research a resource. I'll just change. So inclusive leader, as I had started when we started the presentation, we said bravery and courage is very important for an inclusive leader. Why? Because sometimes you will be taking a path which nobody has walked into. So you should have that guts. You should have that courage to take that decision to move into that path. And because when you know you are fair, when you know you are correct, when you know that your team is going 100% believe in your team and yourself, you can take that challenge. Okay, so inclusive leaders take a lot of challenges. Yes, ready to take criticism also is very important, because inclusive leadership practices a two-way communication. A subordinate also might tell you something, which you need to maybe change, which you need to maybe say practice more. Okay, that person might not tell you directly, but in a very subtle form, that person might form you. So yes, inclusive leaders should have an open mind to take that criticism also. क्योंकि किसी ने कुछ बोल दिया और ego hurt हो गया, and then you act in a vicious way, that is not a sign of inclusive leadership. And these kind of stances do keep happening in our daily life in organizational scenario. People behave in erratic ways, and they speak, and they might be in a stress due to in certain other things, and then you put that stress on the other person or react to somebody else in a different way. So that's why I said the emotional intelligence and quotient part is the most important attribute which an inclusive leader should inculcate within themselves, that how they can control their emotions, how they can control each communication. So because as an inclusive leaders, you are accepting practices, you're accepting the people as that person is, because every person behave in a different way, every person have their limitations, every person will do mistakes, and you have to learn from those mistakes, and you should hold themselves and others accountable. Take ownership of the actions. Okay, so something went wrong, you blame your team and you yourself don't take ownership. That is not the thing. So you should be knowing what is happening in your team. If you're leading the team, take ownership and accountability of all the actions that is happening. How you can mold those action into a more positive way, that is very important. So that is one of the most important tasks of an inclusive leader. So it is something we we practice, but we consciously sometimes don't do it, or we have stereotypes, or we have set forms in our mind which stops us from doing it. or some incident which has happened, or something which you have gone through and you feel that I have also gone through with such circumstances, why the team should not go through that? You feel everybody should go through that. That is not inclusivity. If you have faced some disrespect, if you have faced some challenges, if you have if faced non-inclusivity, then why you should take a corrective action, you should take a challenge to make an environment, make a scenario which is more inclusive to other things. So you have to be other people, so you have to be lifelong learners, be open minded, be when you take challenges, understand the challenges. If you make a mistake, accept it. Everybody makes a mistake, and how you can learn from those mistakes is very, very important. You should have that innovative spark within you, so that you can think of new things, you can think out of the say box. You should have a feeling of curiosity that how other person would say act, how other person do, what every person is good in something or the other. You cannot be good into everything. So you should understand within your team that who is good in what, and give them those kind of roles so that they can excel in what they are doing. So you should have that inquisitiveness to understand others, stretch goals for themselves also and others, and improve themselves. Always, evolve, try to find out new things and question people. But again, that question has to be very, very respectful. It should not hurt the sentiments of the others. Refrain from making fast judgment. Everybody of us, we have a habit of being judgmental, with a speed of light. ऐसे बनते हैं judgmental कि अच्छा अब तो वो वैसा ही है. Stop being judgmental. That is the first step towards inclusivity. We cannot judge others. We know 100% of each of our teammates? Do we know 100% of what situations they have gone through, or what challenges they are evolving through? So let's not be judgmental. Let's understand the scenario, and say understand what is actually, if somebody is facing a problem, what are the factors which is creating that kind of a challenge or a problem. So how you can overcome that problem is very, very important. So inclusive leaders are culturally very intelligent, promote cultural competence. And how do you feel that can come? How do you feel that can come? How can you be a culturally intelligent person? Anybody? Any thoughts? Team members, any thoughts that how can you be a culturally intelligent person? Anybody? Okay, I have one answer. That's great. Neha, not to make fun of people based on their different culture, gender, of course. Wish teammates on festival, wonderful. Not only wish, you can go to lunch and dinner at their place during the festivals. Of course, invited. That is very important. Great. Respect them even if they look or behave differently. Of course, by experiencing multicultural, open mind. Great, great. We have got absolutely inclusive leaders with us. Wonderful. Yes. If you have not, say, travel is also one thing, then you can read a lot. When you want to understand the culture, when you want to see how people is doing about their culture, you can read. As Neha said, try to learn more about their culture. You can learn more about their culture. You can understand, meet, greet, see videos. So learning about culture increases your knowledge. Learning about culture sometimes show you a way out how to deal with that person, or how to deal as in a situation. So it can make your communication very effective. Okay, how so? as we are aware how stereotypes can have a negative influence, so we need to learn and share knowledge with others also. Now पढ़ तो लिया हमने, travel तो कर लिया, lunch dinner पे भी हुआ है festival, why not share it with the other people? You can write a small wonderful message in the group, maybe that this was the festivities I attended with this person and it was so wonderful learning about this, these are some things we did. So that can help you in breaking the stereotype. I might feel that XYZ from this say maybe this state does not eat this, but when I went and experienced there some time with them, I felt they are very comfortable eating those kind of food. So I can mention it. So that breaks the stereotypes. The more knowledge you gain, it helps in breaking the stereotypes. And it will help us to, stop taking negative decisions, stop taking, a kind of decision which is more culturally biased. So it is to understand, learn their cultures, communicate. If you don't understand, ask. There is no problem in ask, no ego hurt. So the more you ask, the more knowledge you gain. At the most, what will happen? The other person will say, no, okay, it's okay, move on. Nothing to, keep it close to our heart. So you have to move on. You have to leave those ego issues, leave those biases behind, and it will, and what happens? The most important thing which will happen is that you will be happy. It gives a lot of happiness when you learn something and when you move on and don't keep anything in your heart. Do you believe in this statement or not? Does it give you happiness when you leave something and just move on? Okay, bola to bola, bolne do. Kind of things you need to leave so that it does not have negative influence on any kind of relationship we are nurturing. So with your team members, what do? You nurture a relationship which has to be a very, very positive relationship. Because if the relationship of the leader is positive with the team, then you are, coming out with more positive, say, results. Okay, so the more stronger the relationship is, the more communication is more stronger. Sometimes there are unsaid communication also, your team would understand if you don't communicate also, because you have a strong bonding with that team. And that bonding, that belief, that trust empowers and develops the others. So a leader is somebody who will just not, develop themselves. They develop the other people also, and they unify the individuals in a group which gives an identity which has a shared goal. Okay, so understand how different thinkers respond to change and mitigate any kind of say negative emotions. So there has to be, and this kind of environment, what does it do? It nurtures creativity, it nurtures innovation. So being an inclusive leader is not a one-day thing. It has to be practiced. It has to be, taken up every day. It has to be, it has to be consciously done also sometime. Okay, so we all have our default style of leadership, as Dr. Garima had explained in a PPT. Everybody practices certain kind of leadership style, but how can we make that style more inclusive is important. Leaders often, when they reach a senior position or a leadership position, they hit a plateau. उनको लगता है बस हो गया, अब वही that is the world. No, you have to grow more and you have to make the team grow. So there's a difference between in a position of a leader and being a leader. Okay, आप director तो बन गए हैं, but are you a really director? Are you playing the role of a leader or not, which is inclusive? So it is an evolution process which you need to practice consciously in both personal and professional way. So ways to become inclusive leaders, you can go through the PPT. Intentionally, connection is very important. Connect with others. Invite co-workers for lunch or coffee. It's not, you have not necessarily every day you have to go out for a lunch. But sometimes you need to take out some time and do that. Listen without judgment. Sometimes, people have a lot of emotions within. They need somebody who can just hear them out. That relieves the stress. So be a good listener. As a leader, you have to realize certain goals. You have to be firm, but in the same place, you have to have a human touch also in your leadership. Okay, give compliment, give affirmation of a good work, good work. Even if the person is looking nice, within limits, you can say, okay, you're looking very nice. Leave a thank you note, even put a stick on the place. Leverage humor. Sometimes humor plays a lot of important. It relieves stress, it brings that happiness within the team. Okay, meeting over a coffee and having some humorous joke on sharing some humorous incident helps a lot into bonding. Okay, and believe me, we organizations do a lot of team building activities. They everybody goes somewhere, and for a 2-3 days you have a lot of team building activity. Okay, those are good, but these practices, small things, have to be brought daily in our daily life, in our leadership style. We can embed them so that it becomes a conscious nature with us, that how we can give new dimensions of growth to our team, which will in a way progresses us ourselves as leader. Okay, great opportunities. Of course, if you have a happy environment, definitely the brainstorming will say come out with wonderful ideas. If you are not able to understand your leadership style, you need say advice, you can reach out to somebody, or a coach, or a mentor, who can guide you, or a friend maybe, who can guide you and tell you these are the areas of important. Our life is so cluttered, our mind is so cluttered. Sometimes we are not able to realize that, where we need to do that. So a guide or a mentor sometimes can help you out. You can talk your concerns, and who can come out, give you some positive advices, that nudge, that push to become a more inclusive and leader. Again, it's not take, it's give also. So inclusive leader has to give also. Become a coach or mentor to your teammates, to maybe an intern, or maybe a student who is connecting you to the in LinkedIn. It will broaden your horizon. I'm just giving this an example, like a student connected to LinkedIn, because many students connect to us on LinkedIn. So being a mentor also gives you a happiness, because what you have learned, you're sharing with somebody else, right? So you can shape somebody's future, help somebody else to take the right kind of decisions. Maybe the roadblocks which you have faced, the challenges which you have faced, that person through your mentorship might not face them, and that person's journey through your mentorship could be a more smoother. So enhance your EQ, and never stop learning, and understand yourself. And the more you understand yourself, the more you will be able to understand others. Read as much as possible, keep updating yourself, make new friends, and I'm sure all of you will become are inclusive. Thank you so much. Any kind of questions, any kind of chit chat you have in your mind, the ideas going on, please, you can share and write. Anything. We'll share the PPTs if you want. That is not a problem. Ma'am, you would like to share something?
No, ma'am, I think it was a great session, and I think so. A lot of information has been given to them, and
Yeah.
they're all ready to become cross-cultural, inclusive leaders.
Yeah.
And it's just that I think so. They just need to keep these consciously imbibe these concepts
Yes.
during their experiences. It will fall in place. So it's I mean, leadership is a task which needs to be worked upon every day. That is one thing I would
Yes.
want to like
That's
to.
very.
Yeah. It is not like that you have become and you've got a position and you're a leader. Leadership is something like a relationship. Every day
Yes.
you work upon yourself, every day you learn, every day you learn from everybody, and probably make the better version of yourself. So, and there are a lot of concepts which needs to be imbibed. And I think so common sense being the common sense, empathy, and respect is
Yes.
going to take you a long, long way.
That's very true, ma'am. Very well said that, we need to keep imbibing this. Even us, after so many years of experience, we try to learn a new thing every day. Whatever messages you have written, I think we have learned one or two new things from those also. Okay. So it's always a ever evolving process, and you need to look how you can evolve every day, learn a new thing, and how you can implement that thing. That is very important. Nisha, you have asked about PPT. Yes, we'll give out the relevant information and handouts we'll be sharing through your coordinator. Okay, don't worry on that. We'll share that. And if you anytime want to connect to any of us, all of you are most welcome. If you have certain issues or if you want to discuss some of your organizational problems wherein we can be mentor you out in any way, you're most welcome. To me, to Dr. Garima, anybody, you can always reach out. We are in the university. You can have our email IDs through your coordinators, or we can write it in the chat also, ma'am. They can have our email IDs and they can connect to us anytime they want.
Yeah,
right?
I just wanted to share one thing. That time when I was doing my presentation,
Yeah.
my first assignment was in Seychelles, international assignment for a long time. I was there for 7 years. And to understand, Seychelles is a group of
Island, yeah.
27 countries. And it had been kind of dominated and ruled by French and then the Britishers and everybody. So it is a country which, all the leadership positions are held by expatriate. So then when I went there the first time, my mentor told me one thing. He says, Garima, remember this. These people have been slaves all their lives, So even if you will tell them something very politely, immediately that streak of slavery is activated in them.
Yes,
so
yes.
you see how you going to ensure that they work. So, and the whole, if I want to kind of like put my presentation into a capsule, I would say, whenever you're working into cross-cultural teams, understand what makes that team tick. Every person gets, even in individual levels, understand what is the motivation for that person, what is making that person tick. And I think so you will never go wrong in your life.
That's
for
true.
Some it is money, for some it is respect, for some it is growth. It is different for everybody, So just understand, what is making that person tick, and you will never fail in your leadership. That's what is my, what I've learned in my life.
That's true. That's true. So, Vedhi, ma'am, can we close the session? We are already out of. Can we close the session? It was great having you all with us today in this workshop, and we'll in future also we'll look for many such workshops. And any other particular topic you would like to take us in a workshop mode, please connect. You have my email ID. You can connect to us and write to us any particular area you want us to groom you into, and we'll definitely take it up. Right?
I think so. That will be great, if it comes from them, because
Yes.
that it is going to be a very common problem for all of them, So wherever it is hurting right now in your process of your growth, we can relate how, because we would have faced the same things what you are facing today, So if we can really come and discuss and kind of inform you about it. So the topics coming from you wonderful, and then we can kind of shed some light and take it forward from there.
Right, very true. So we can close the session now, and thank you, Vedhi. Thank you, ma'am, so much. And all participants, thank you so much. You all were very interactive. The best part is you gave your viewpoints to us, in which we could make the session very interactive. Mobin ji, thank you so much for your say coordination. It was seamless and perfect. Mobin ji, aap ho now?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Mobin ji. It was absolutely
you.
perfect and wonderful and seamless session I had in Zoom. So thank you so much, all of you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Vedhi.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good
Wonderful.
night.
Happy New Year to all.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.